Hey everybody, this is Chris and welcome back to my channel. In another one of my videos, I actually posted an analysis of some of the pronunciation features in English by speakers of Indian languages. And a lot of people recommended that I check out Shashi Tharoor, especially the way that he speaks English and some features of Indian English. So I thought I would find out some more about this and I would check out some of his videos and do a bit of an analysis and a reaction to that. Just before I start, just remember, as I said before, there are no right or wrong accents. There are only different accents. Also, I know that he has made a lot of speeches about the British in India, and I know British people did a lot of bad things in India, right? But I'm not here to talk about that in this video. I accept that, but in this video I'm going to be concentrating on his use of English and talking about Indian English in some more detail. So I hope you enjoy it before all the comments come, and let's have a look at this video together.
There are these Indian words which don't exist in any Indian language and don't exist in any other form of the English language, like brinjal. Right. So in the Western world it's eggplant, right? And in India, there is no Indian language where it's called brinjal. It's called Bengan, it's called Vaidarinya in Malayalam, Begun in Bangla. Yeah. But you can't have anyone saying brinjal except in Indian English.
Okay, this is very interesting. First of all, I didn't actually know about this word brinjal in Indian English. I'm not exactly sure where this comes from. Is this something that you would normally use in everyday life? By the way, it's not really called eggplant in the UK. That's the American English term. In British English, it would normally be called aubergine. I believe this also comes from the Arabic, like brinjal. But I didn't know that this was the word that was commonly used in India. So this is quite interesting. It's interesting listening to the way he speaks. The first impression that I have is that he's speaking in a very precise way. I think that he has a very clear accent. He has a very comforting voice. He's very comfortable to listen to, actually. And he's obviously a very good public speaker. I think that some of the pronunciation features of his accent are actually very much like British English, especially some of his vowel sounds. But it's obvious that he's spent a lot of time talking to people from different places in the world, and he has almost like an internationalized, I would say, Indian English way of speaking. I don't know if that people would agree with that, but that's my initial impression.
You've introduced India to many words like rhodomontade and farrago and
I don't know these words.
So I'd like you to introduce
I don't know those words actually.
One more of your favorite words.
Well, you know, when a kid asked me that at a gathering in a school in Trivandrum, I told him the word that I would introduce him to was to read. And he'd come across his own words, and I wouldn't have to spoon feed him a word. But there are lots of interesting words. As you know, yesterday I reminded the nation of a word called Noligoster, which is an 1845 American concoction, meaning a shrewd and unprincipled politician. I had produced it when one particular chief minister jumped ship and went and joined the party he'd campaigned against.
I actually didn't know this word either, but it's interesting. It's an American word, I guess. Maybe it's not used so much in British English. But I'm actually noticing now more of the pronunciation features of his accent. A lot of them have very British kind of flavor to them. For example, read, he has this long E sound, which is very accurate, and words, he has this sound. It definitely sounds more like, if you had to call it a type of accent, it's an Indian English accent, but definitely more British English features than American English. He definitely doesn't have an American accent at all. I think that listening to it now, it has more international features, but it's actually got quite of an Indian English intonation to it. He doesn't speak in the same way as the interviewer. I think they both have very different accents, but he still retained some Indian English features to his accent. So very much a feature of where he's from, his upbringing. I think he was born in London, and he spent most of his a lot of his upbringing would have been in India, so he has a lot of these features, but then he's become internationalized. Obviously, I know that he worked as a politician, he's also been a writer. He's been the Under Secretary General of the United Nations, so he would have had a contact with a lot of people from all over the world. I know he was almost the Secretary General of the United Nations, and he's been in a lot of top cabinet positions in India as well. So he's had a distinguished political career, and obviously had a lot of contact with different Indian English speakers and international English speakers as well, which will have shaped the way that he speaks.
And when something similar seemed to be happening overnight on the weekend, I
on the weekend is also an American English expression
today,
not British English.
So that's one word which I think at least a lot of people now seem to be familiar with in India. Another word that I've been fond of in the sense that I feel it could be used more often, especially in our politics, is defenestrate. Defenestrate means literally to throw out of the window, but it's meant to be used to simply mean to reject, to discard, to expel, all of those things.
Now, this one I actually knew. Defenestrate means to throw somebody out of a window. Probably because I learned Latin back in the day, and fenestrum is like a window, and de means out of, right? So out of a window. But it's interesting how he's bringing back a lot of these very old-fashioned English words which aren't used so much now, and he's making them popular, not just in India, but in other places as well. And this is very interesting to me. I think that he's had quite an influence on a lot of English speakers, especially in his home country.
And I love that word. I've been using it since my college days, and I'm surprised that it's not more widely used. So defenestrate.
Defenestrate it is.
Defenestrate the political opportunists from our politics, for example, would be a good thing to do. But then I also coined a term which I wanted to see getting more popular, which is not really a new word particularly, but as Minister of State for External Affairs, I suggested in a couple of speeches that India was moving on beyond non-alignment to multi-alignment. When I said it, it kind of fell with a thud. And no one took it seriously, and no one quoted it and got no attention.
I think it's interesting the way he says thud. He pronounces it thud. I'm not sure that's because he's used to saying it in that way or because of his accent, but it's not the way that somebody from the UK would say it or the US. So that's quite interesting to me. Maybe that's just an accent feature that he has. And again, he's creating these new words, which are actually being picked up by other people. So I think that's something that somebody of his stature is able to do. And he often brings up these words in kind of a light-hearted way and as a feature of his conversation. So I think this is very interesting, the way he's able to do this and get other people to use them as well. And it's kind of endears people to him as well.
Now it's come back into vogue, and I was complimenting my friend, the Foreign Minister, Jaishankar, that in one of his speeches he used the term multi-alignment. So 10 years after I had tried and failed, it may be coming into circulation.
Could you talk to us about some of the other words that the British have looted from India?
Oh God, there are so many. I mean, there must be, without exaggeration, close to 1,000 words in the complete the big fat Oxford English Dictionary that have come from Indian languages. But some I wouldn't really count as English words because they're very obviously unchanged Indian words that they put in. Some, however, though very much current in English usage, and many English people don't realize have come from India, to the Indian ear are very obviously Indian, like jungle, bungalow, things that guru, yoga. I mean, many people, oddly enough, in the Western world don't realize that these words have come from Indian languages.
What he says is absolutely true. There are so many words in English that do come from Indian languages. In fact, there are so many words in English from all kinds of languages, like French, Spanish, even Chinese, Portuguese, Arabic, all kinds of languages that have come into English, not just because of the history of the British, like all over the world, but also because of immigration, people moving to English-speaking countries, and the movement of people from all over the world. So English is actually like a melting pot, and inevitably a lot of these words do come from Indian languages. But I don't know how people would not guess that guru is from an Indian language, right? Like how can you have a guru from London? Now, it doesn't really make sense, but I guess people don't realize that's where it comes from, right?
But then there are the really surprising ones, words that don't actually look or sound Indian the way the British pronounce them, but which are actually derived from, and then of course mispronounced, Indian words. So one that I particularly was struck by when I discovered it about 10, 15 years ago was shampoo. Because shampoo came from the British saying shampoo when they got their servants to wash their hair. So press and knead and rub your hair is shampoo. Everything was an imperative. And then I'm going for a shampoo became I'm going for a shampoo. And that's how.
So I didn't actually know that this word was from Champo. I knew it was from an Indian language, but I wasn't actually sure that how it was originally pronounced. Of course, this is a mispronunciation in the sense that it's not the same as the original pronunciation. And when words come into English, the pronunciation often changes because people don't know how to pronounce them properly, right? Or the original pronunciation. The pronunciation changes when they come into English. And this is common when different languages absorb and assimilate words from other languages.
The other one was cash, which comes from Tamil. I mean, I had no idea that cash came from. I mean, I could guess that mulligatawny soup was actually mulligatawny, which simply means hot pepper water. And that's in Tamil. But that cash had come from a Tamil word was a discovery to me.
Yeah, I had no idea about this either. I never knew that cash was from an Indian language or from Tamil. But actually, mulligatawny soup is something you can buy in the supermarkets in the UK. So people do know what that is.
Catamaran is another one.
That's again from Tamil Catamaran.
Yeah, I didn't know that was from an Indian language either. But every English speaker would know this word.
That's what a catamaran is from.
Everybody would know it.
And then, of course, if you want to look at cummerbund, a very elegant English gentleman wearing something around his waist.
So this one is not used so much nowadays, but
just as, by the way,
would know
this may surprise you. When you see pictures of these Mexican revolutionaries like Zapata with bandanas around their head, it comes from bandana. Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know which Indian language is bandana from. You can let me know in the comments. I'm not sure about that one. Bangle, I know.
Yes. Bangles, I think you could guess, no?
Yeah.
I guess all these words that end in ul, like jungle, bangle, a lot of them are from Hindi. I guess this is something, a lot of words end like this.
Expression that is no longer really current in English for a big commotion, confusion racket called a doolali. And that comes from Devlali.
I believe
not to mention the jalpa.
This is actually interesting. I do know doolali, and this is actually a word which is still used. I don't know which Indian language doolali comes from or jodhpur, but maybe you could let me know.
Which is the Jodhpur, of course.
Yeah. Right. And indigo, the word indigo too comes from the Greek word for India or Indian. You've also written about India.
I guess indigo is from a dye which originally came from India, but this is used so much. It's like the colors of the rainbow: blue, indigo, and violet. Right. So this is every child in the UK would learn this word. So it's a common word.
Isms like native place. Mm-hmm. So what are some of your other favorites?
Well, there are so many. Some of them they just slip into conversation quite routinely. My favorite for the longest time was prepone because I thought I'd invented it. But air dash is another Indianism. Then the newspaper reports about police tracking down criminals always refer to history sheeters. That is a criminal with a long record of crimes. It's called a history sheeter.
It's interesting how these new expressions come up in Indian English. I didn't know about these expressions before. Like, I don't know what air dash means exactly. I'll be sure to look that one up.
Yeah, that comes from all Indian English. Then there's, of course, the expressions, of which the most famous one is please adjust. Kindly adjust, actually. Not please adjust, kindly adjust. That is when a fifth person sits on a bench meant for two and says, kindly adjust. Then there's also...
So this kind of phrase would actually be understandable to a native English speaker, probably anywhere in the world. But I don't know, how often would you say kindly adjust if you were speaking English in everyday life? Is this one used often?
The classic, we are like this only. So you can come up with a few of those.
So what does we are like this only mean? Does it mean we are only like this? It just sounds like a different word order to me, but I wasn't familiar with this one.
So after the US, India has the second highest number of English speakers. And with our birth rate, I think we're soon going to have the highest number of English speakers.
Yeah, but the US has an immigration rate. So they've already reached, I think, over 300 million.
Okay.
whereas our census severely undercounts us.
Yeah.
So we may find it difficult to have bragging rights over the actual numbers.
Right.
Because, for example, in the Indian census, I'm not considered an English speaker. Since the census only asked me what's my mother tongue, which is
Right.
Malayalam, so I'm not listed. They didn't, at least the year that I did the census, there was no supplementary question saying what other languages do you know.
So they've underestimated the number.
Seriously underestimated. In fact, I think the official census claim is 2% speak English.
Right.
That's interesting that they only count the number of native English speakers. I wonder how many speakers of English there are in India for whom English is their native language rather than Hindi or Bengali or Gujarati or any other language. And if that's the case, I'm wondering why you would be a native speaker of a non-Indian language. Of course, you've got foreigners in India, but my guess is that most people would speak an Indian language as their native language or their first language. So I'm wondering what kind of people in India would have English as their native language, and would it just be because it's spoken in their family decide to use English, or for another reason? But obviously, if you count the number of second language speakers of English and even third language speakers of English, then maybe India could even have the most, a lot more than the UK, that's for sure.
Which is a massive undercount.
Correct.
So I would say the reality is somewhere between 10 and 20%, with varying degrees of competence and fluency of the Indian population. Now, if we take that number, then you're looking at about 260 million, which is still lower than America.
It's hard to calculate because what do you count as speaking English? Like how good, how fluent do you have to be in order to be counted as a native speaker? So it's hard to say, but obviously some people speak English more fluently than others.
So, but I think that with our birth rate, we are going to, exceed.
All right, good for you and your faith in our birth rate.
So anyway,
In a sense, there's no point really arguing about this because the exact number, because it's obviously a lot of English speakers in India, and nobody's doubting that.
Torontonians describe their complexion as wheatish.
Wheatish.
Wheatish, does that mean like
Do you think
white
that
or
these words
pale?
will find their
It's just
way
a guess
into
because
the-
I don't know this
No,
word actually.
Actually, no. I'll tell you what. One of the strengths as well of English is the fact that there are so many regional variants. That, there's a very
Absolutely.
distinctive Australian English, which even New Zealanders can tell apart from a New Zealander's English, though we probably can't. Therefore, Indian English has every right to be as distinctive as Irish English or American English. And it's curious, for example, that in India, at least for the longest time, I've not heard it much since returning to India, but when I left India, people still spoke in furlongs.
Yeah, what he says is absolutely right. There are a lot of different varieties of English, not just British English and American English. Indian English is a recognized standard of English, and some of the words and expressions have made it to the outside world. Some of them are mostly used in India, and this is normal. Just it's all to do with how many people are traveling and the influence of Indian culture outside. Obviously, maybe Indian English is not being spread so much through movies and other culture because most of the movies are in Hindi, right, in Bollywood. So that could be one of the reasons why it's not spreading so widely, because of the media. But a lot of the words are making it out. I mean, actually in the town where I grew up, there's a place called Long Furlong. And this word is definitely something that some people in the UK would know, but it's not really used much anymore. It's kind of outdated.
How far are you away? Oh, it's just a couple of furlongs down the road. But no one in England has used furlong for 100 years. So we had a word in English.
Yeah.
Then there are these Indian words which don't exist in any Indian language and don't exist in any other form of the English language, like brinjal.
Right.
So in the Western world, it's eggplant.
Or aubergine
Right.
in the UK.
And in India, there is no Indian language where it's called brinjal. It's called bengan, it's called vaidarinya in Malayalam, begun in Bangla.
Yeah.
But you can't have anyone saying brinjal except in Indian English.
Right.
So where did it come from? I haven't looked it up. But the fact is, it's an Indian English word that only exists in Indian English.
Okay, so I found this video really interesting. I personally learned a lot. And let me know what you think of Shashi Tharoor, about the way he speaks, about his English. Are there any other videos from him or speeches that I should definitely check out? Or any other Indian English speakers? What other words in English come from Indian languages? And what other expressions are there that are only used in Indian English? Be sure to let me know in the comments, because I'd like to know more about that. Maybe I can even do another video sometime about Indian English and some words that are used in Indian English. You can let me know about some, and I'll look into that in more detail. All right, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you are interested in learning more about the English that's used in the UK, specifically the accent from the south of the UK, which is what I'm speaking, then definitely check out some of the videos on my channel, subscribe, and let me know what you would like to see some more videos on. And I will see you again very, very soon.